In 1979, three identical boys vanished under the twisted branches of the Devil's Tree on Broken Elm Street. No trace, no answers, until Laya Ramirez tears open a wall in her new home and finds a chilling secret, a box with their names, a eyeless doll, and a Polaroid that shouldn't exist. As whispers echo from the shadows and a sinister symbol surfaces, Leia, Elaine, and Detective Nolan uncover a dark conspiracy circle of three. Will they find the boys, or become the next to disappear? Stay tuned to unravel the mystery. The hammer hit the wall with a dull thud. Laya Ramirez, 32, sweat dripping down her neck, swung again. The old garage of 214 Broken Elm Street groaned like it was begging her to stop. She didn't. Dust swirled in the stale August air, catching the sunlight slanting through a cracked window. Her husband, Ben, was out back, hauling boxes from their U-Haul, oblivious to the stubborn plywood she was tearing into. They'd moved to Rosewood County, Texas, 3 days ago, chasing a fixer-upper dream. But this wall, this warped, brittle slab of wood, was hiding something. She could feel it. Another swing, and the plywood splintered. A jagged hole opened, dark and gaping. Laya froze. The air shifted, heavier now, like the house was holding its breath. She dropped the hammer, grabbed a flashlight from the workbench, and peered inside. Cobwebs clung to her fingers as she reached in, brushing against something solid. A box. Wooden, no bigger than a shoebox, its edges gray with age. Her pulse quickened. She tugged it free, the wood scraping against the concrete slab like a whispered warning. Laya set the box on the workbench. The lid was nailed shut, but the nails were rusted, loose. She pried it open with a screwdriver, heart thumping. Inside, dust coated everything like ash. A doll, its cloth body torn, its eyes stitched shut with thick black thread. 3 plastic bracelets, each with a name scratched into the beads. Daniel, Evan, Miles. And a Polaroid, faded but clear enough to show 3 identical boys, maybe 8 years old, grinning in red jackets. Behind them, unmistakable, was this house, same crooked porch rail, same chipped siding, same cracked sidewalk. Laya's breath caught. She flipped the photo. No names, no date, just a smudge of ink. She touched the Polaroid, and a sound sliced through the silence, a soft, child's giggle, echoing from the wall. Laya spun around, flashlight beam darting across the garage. Nothing. Just shadows and dust. Her skin prickled. "Ben?" she called, voice tight. No answer. The giggle came again, fainter, like it was sinking into the concrete. She backed away, clutching the photo, and tripped over a paint can. The clatter was deafening. Ben's voice cut through from the driveway. "Laya, you okay in there?" She scrambled up, shoving the box under a tarp. "Yeah, fine," she yelled, but her hands were shaking. She stuffed the Polaroid in her jeans pocket and stepped outside, squinting into the late afternoon sun. Ben, 35, broad-shouldered and practical, was stacking boxes by the tailgate. He wiped sweat from his brow, his t-shirt sticking to his back. "You look like you saw a ghost," he said, half grinning. Laya forced a laugh, but it came out wrong. "Just found some old junk in the wall. Creepy stuff." He raised an eyebrow. "Creepy how?" She hesitated. Ben was the type to shrug off anything that didn't fit his engineer's logic. Like kids' toys. A doll with no eyes, and a photo. "Probably some tenant's trash," he said, heaving a box onto his shoulder. "This place was a rental for years. Let's not start digging up drama, okay?" Laya nodded, but her mind was racing. Those names, Daniel, Evan, Miles, felt like they were burning a hole in her pocket. She'd been a freelance journalist before they moved, chasing stories about missing kids, cold cases, the kind of stuff that kept her up at night. This wasn't trash. This was a secret, sealed behind a wall for decades. That evening, after Ben crashed on the couch with a beer and the Rangers game blaring on their old CRT television, Laya sat at the kitchen table with her laptop. The dial-up internet screeched as she typed, "Missing children 1979 Rosewood County, Texas Triplets." The screen flickered, then loaded a grainy article from the Rosewood Gazette, dated the 12th of September, 1979. Triplets vanish without trace on Broken Elm Street. Daniel, Evan, and Miles Cooper, 8 years old, last seen riding their bikes home from school. No witnesses, no suspects, no leads. The photo showed 3 identical phantasm dark eyes, same toothy grins, same red jackets as the Polaroid. Laya's stomach twisted. She scrolled further. The boy's mother, Elaine Cooper, was quoted. "They didn't run away. Someone took them. I know it." The article mentioned the family lived at 210 Broken Elm Street, just across the road. Laya glanced out the window. The brick house opposite their driveway sat quiet, its porch light flickering. A shadow moved behind the curtains. She grabbed the phone book. Rosewood still used them in 2008 and found a listing, Elaine Cooper, 210 Broken Elm Street. Her hand hovered over the cordless phone. It was late, past 9 p.m., but she dialed anyway. The line rang 4 times before a voice answered, soft but sharp, like it hadn't been used in years. "Hello? Mrs. Cooper? This is Laya Ramirez. I live across the street, at 214. I found something today. In my garage. I think it's about your boys." Silence, then a whisper. "What did you find?" "A box, with their names, in a photo. Can I come over?" Another pause, longer this time. "Yes, now." Laya grabbed the Polaroid and the bracelets, leaving the doll in the box. She didn't want to touch it again. The night air was thick, heavy with the scent of dry grass and gasoline. Broken Elm Street felt too still, the old elm tree at the end of the cul-de-sac looming like a skeletal hand against the moon. Locals called it the Devil's Tree. Ben had told her, laughing it off. Laya wasn't laughing now. Elaine's house smelled of lavender and old paper. The living room was dim, a single lamp casting shadows over floral wallpaper peeling at the edges. Elaine, 60, stood by the mantel, her white hair pulled back, her eyes sharp but hollow. 3 silver frames sat above the fireplace, each holding the same school portrait, a round-faced boy, dark eyes, gap-toothed smile. "The triplets." "Show me," Elaine said, voice steady but brittle. Laya handed her the Polaroid. Elaine's fingers trembled as she studied it, her breath hitching. "This is them," she whispered. "Daniel, Evan, Miles." The day before they vanished, they were playing out front, laughing, always together. She turned the photo over, then looked up, eyes blazing. "Where was this?" "In a wall," Laya said. "Behind plywood in our garage. There was a box, sealed tight. It had these 2. She held out the bracelets, the names glinting in the lamplight. Elaine took one Miles's sand, clutched it to her chest. "They didn't run away," she said, more to herself than Laya. "I told them, over and over. Someone took them. The police, the neighbors, they all said I was crazy, but I knew." Laya swallowed. The article said they were last seen riding their bikes. What happened that day? Elaine sank into an armchair, still holding the bracelet. The 10th of September, 1979. A Monday. They got off the school bus at the corner of Broken Elm and Willow Lane, 4:12 p.m. A neighbor saw them pedaling home, laughing. They never made it. No bikes, no backpacks, nothing. Like the street swallowed them whole. She looked out the window, toward the elm tree. People used to say that tree was cursed. The Devil's Tree, they called it. Said it took kids who got too close. Laya's skin crawled. Did the police have any suspects? "Vernon Hale," Elaine said, voice hardening. "He lived in your house back then. Older guy, widower, kept to himself. Had a big golden retriever, Brutus. The boys loved that dog, always petting it through the fence. I warned them about strangers, but a dog, it makes you let your guard down." The cops cleared him. Said he was at a church meeting that day. "But I never trusted him." Laya leaned forward. "Why not?" Elaine's eyes darkened. He looked at them too long. Not like a neighbor. Like, he was studying them. And after they vanished, he stopped letting Brutus out. Said the dog got sick. I think he was hiding something. Laya pulled out a notepad, scribbling Vernon Hale's name. What happened to him? Died in 2002. Stroke. His niece sold the house. It sat empty for years, until you bought it. Elaine's voice cracked. If he took them, he took the truth with him. Leia glanced at the Polaroid, still in Elaine's hand. We should call the police. This is evidence. Elaine nodded, but her eyes were fixed on the tree outside. They won't believe us. Not after 29 years. But I'll show you something. She stood, leading Laya to a small table by the stairs. A shoebox sat there, filled with newspaper clippings, missing posters, and a single red yo-yo, its string frayed. Miles's, Elaine said. They found it in the gutter, 2 blocks away. Only thing they ever found. Leia's phone rang, shattering the silence. She fumbled it from her pocket. Ben's name flashed on the screen. Hey, what's up? Where are you? His voice was tight, urgent. Get home. Now. Why? What's wrong? Just come back. Something's in the garage. Leia's heart sank. I'm across the street. Be there in 2 minutes. She hung up, turning to Elaine. I have to go. Ben's freaking out. Will you be okay? Elaine nodded, but her grip on the bracelet tightened. Be careful. That house. It's not right. Laya sprinted across the street, the Polaroid still in her pocket. The garage door was open, Ben standing inside, flashlight in hand. His face was pale, eyes wide. Look at this, he said, pointing to the workbench. The tarp was gone. The wooden box sat open, the doll's stitched eyes staring up at them. Next to it, scrawled in red crayon on the wood, was a single word, stop. Leia's mouth went dry. Did you write that? Ben shook his head. I was in the backyard, came in to grab a screwdriver, and this was here. Laya, what the hell's going on? She stepped closer, her flashlight beam trembling. The crayon was fresh, the letters uneven, like a child's hand. This wasn't here an hour ago, she whispered. Someone was in here. Ben grabbed her arm. We're calling the cops, right now. Wait, Laya said, pulling free. She reached into the box, lifting the doll. A piece of paper fluttered out, yellowed and brittle. She unfolded it, heart pounding. In shaky handwriting, it read, Don't open the door. What door? Ben asked, voice rising. Leia, this is crazy. We're not playing detective. She ignored him, shining the flashlight on the wall where she'd found the box. The hole was still there, jagged and dark. Something glinted inside. She reached in, fingers brushing metal. A key, small and rusted, tied to a piece of twine. Her pulse roared in her ears. Leia, don't, Ben said, but she was already pulling it free. The key was cold, heavier than it looked. Etched into the side was a symbol, 3 lines slashing through a circle. What is that? Ben asked, leaning closer. I don't know, Laya said, but her gut twisted. She'd seen that symbol before, in old case files, cold cases about missing kids. But I'm keeping it. That night, Laya couldn't sleep. Ben was out cold, snoring on the couch, but she sat at the kitchen table, the Polaroid, bracelets, and key spread out like a puzzle. The house creaked around her, the kind of creaks old houses make, but each one made her jump. She kept thinking about Elaine's words, the devil's tree. It took kids who got too close. At 2 a.m., she stepped onto the porch for air. The street was silent, the elm tree's branches clawing at the sky. She squinted, heart skipping. A shadow moved under the tree, small, like a child. She blinked, and it was gone. But on the soft dirt at the base of the tree, fresh as if pressed moments ago, was a single child's footprint. Laya backed into the house, locking the door. Her hand shook as she grabbed the phone, dialing Elaine's number. It went to voicemail. Elaine, it's Leia. I found something else. A key. And I think someone's watching us. Call me back. She hung up, staring at the Polaroid. The boys' smiles seemed different now, not joyful but frozen, like they knew something was coming. The garage light flickered through the window, once, twice, then went out. A soft giggle echoed from the darkness, sharp and clear. Laya grabbed a kitchen knife, her breath shallow. Ben, she hissed, shaking him awake. Get up, someone's in the garage. He groaned, blinking. What? It's probably a raccoon. Then why's the light off? She snapped, pointing to the window. And why do I keep hearing kids laughing? Ben sat up, fully awake now. Okay, stay here. I'll check. No way, Leia said, gripping the knife. We go together. They crept to the garage, Ben clutching a flashlight, Leia's knuckles wide around the knife. The door was ajar, swaying slightly in the breeze. Ben pushed it open, the hinges screaming. The beam swept the room, landing on the workbench. The box was gone. Leia, Ben whispered, voice cracking. Look. On the floor, in the center of the garage, was a single red yo-yo, its string coiled like a snake. Next to it, scratched into the concrete, were 3 words. You were warned. Leia Ramirez stood frozen in the garage, the red yo-yo glinting under Ben's flashlight like a drop of blood on the concrete. The words scratched beside it, you were warned, seemed to pulse in the dark. Her grip tightened on the kitchen knife, her pulse hammering. Ben, pale as the moonlight spilling through the window, swung the beam across the garage. Empty. Just dust and shadows, but the air felt wrong, thick, like it was pressing against her skin. Who's doing this? Ben whispered, voice low and shaky. Leia, we're way past creepy old toys now. I don't know, she said, eyes locked on the yo-yo. But this is about those boys, Daniel, Evan, Miles. Someone doesn't want us digging. Ben grabbed her arm. Then we stop. We call the cops, hand over the photo, the bracelets, that damn key, and we're done. Leia pulled free, shaking her head. You saw that footprint under the tree. You heard the giggling. This isn't random, Ben. Whoever left this was here, in our house. She knelt, picking up the yo-yo. It was cold, heavier than it should be, the string frayed but intact. This is Miles's. Elaine said they found one just like it in 1979. Ben ran a hand through his hair, exasperated. So what? We're playing detective now? Leia, you're a journalist, not Nancy Drew. She stood, slipping the yo-yo into her pocket next to the Polaroid and the strange key with the 3-line symbol. I'm not playing anything. Those boys vanished across the street, and their stuff was walled up in our garage. You really think we can just walk away? Before Ben could answer, a sharp knock rattled the front door. They both jumped, the knife nearly slipping from Leia's hand. Who's that at 2 a.m.? Ben hissed, grabbing a crowbar from the workbench. Leia crept to the living room, peering through the peephole. Elaine Cooper stood on the porch, her white hair wild, a flashlight in one hand, and Miles's bracelet in the other. Leia opened the door, heart still racing. Elaine? What's wrong? I got your message, Elaine said, stepping inside without waiting. Her eyes were bloodshot, her voice tight. You said you found a key. Show me. Leia hesitated, glancing at Ben, who looked ready to bolt. It's in here, she said, leading Elaine to the kitchen table. She pulled out the key, its rusted surface catching the light. The symbol 3 lines slashing through a circle felt like it was staring back at her. Elaine's breath hitched. Where was this? In the wall, with the box, Leia said. And then, someone broke in tonight. The box is gone, but they left this. She held up the yo-yo, the red paint chipped but unmistakable. Elaine's hand flew to her mouth. That's his. Miles's. He loved that thing, always spinning it until it drove me nuts. Her voice cracked. They're taunting us. Whoever took my boys, they're still here. Ben set the crowbar down, his jaw tight. Okay, that's it. I'm calling the police. This is breaking and entering, maybe stalking. Elaine grabbed his arm, her grip fierce. The police won't help. They didn't in 79, and they won't now. They'll take the evidence, file a report, and forget it. I've been through this. Then what do we do? Ben snapped. Wait for whoever this is to come back? We find out who Vernon Hale really was, Elaine said, her voice like steel. He lived in this house. He knew my boys, and I'm betting he knew what that symbol means. Leia nodded, her journalist instincts kicking in. I'll start digging tomorrow. Vernon, the boys, that tree, there's a story here, and it's buried deep. Ben threw up his hands. You're both crazy. This is how people end up on Dateline. Then go to bed, Ben, Laya said, sharper than she meant. But I'm not stopping. Elaine gave her a look, half gratitude, half warning. Be careful, Laya. Broken Elm Street keeps its secrets. The next morning, Laya sat at the Rosewood County Library, a squat brick building that smelled of mildew and old books. The librarian, a gray-haired woman named Doris, handed her a stack of microfilm from 1979. Laya spooled through the Rosewood Gazette, her coffee going cold. Articles about the Triplets' disappearance dominated September and October '79. Community rallies for missing boys. No leads in Cooper case. One grainy photo showed Elaine, younger, hollow-eyed, clutching a missing poster. Another mentioned Vernon Hale, described as a respected widower who led a prayer vigil for the boys. Laya's gut twisted. Respected, my ass. She found a 2002 obituary for Vernon Hale. Died at 78, stroke, no children, left his house to a niece, Mary Lachlan. Nothing about a son, nothing about a dog named Brutus. But one line caught her eye. Preceded in death by his wife, June Hale, and son, Matthew, in 1960. Leah scribbled it down. Matthew. Elaine hadn't mentioned a son. Her phone buzzed. Ben, texting from work. Cops are coming at noon. Don't do anything stupid. She ignored it, flipping to a 1979 police blotter. A brief note mentioned a vagrant, James Jimmy Shade, claiming he saw a strange truck near Broken Elm Street the night the boys vanished. The cops dismissed him as drunk. Leah wrote down his name, then headed to the records office. At the county clerk's desk, she requested Vernon's property records. The clerk, a bored guy in his 20s, handed her a thin file. Funny, he said, chewing gum. Someone else asked for this last year. Paid cash for copies. Leah's skin prickled. Who? No name, some guy. Said he was restoring the house. She opened the file. Blueprints of 214 Broken Elm Street, dated 1965. The garage had been added in 1970, with a note, custom framing, owner request. Why custom? She scanned further, finding a 1980 inspection report. The garage wall, the one she'd torn open, had been sealed with extra plywood. No explanation given. Laya's pulse quickened. Vernon had hidden something deliberately. Back home, Detective Sarah Nolan was waiting in the driveway, leaning against a dusty cruiser, mid-40s, sharp-eyed, her blazer creased from the Texas heat. She'd been with Rosewood PD for 20 years, and Laya could tell she'd seen too much. Ben stood nearby, arms crossed, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Mrs. Ramirez, Nolan said, notepad in hand. Let's see what you found. Inside, Laya laid out the Polaroid, the bracelets, the key, and the yo-yo on the kitchen table. She recounted the break-in, the crayon message, the footprint under the devil's tree. Nolan's face stayed neutral, but her pen moved fast. This is unusual, Nolan said, holding the key. This symbol, 3 lines in a circle, I've seen it before. Old case, 70s, missing kid in Austin, never solved. She set it down, eyeing Laya. You're a reporter, right? You know better than to play with evidence. I'm not playing, Laya said, bristling. I found this in my house, and someone's trying to scare us off. Nolan nodded, bagging the items. I'll log these, reopen the Cooper file, but don't expect miracles. This case is colder than a January grave. 29 years, no bodies, no witnesses. Elaine thinks Vernon Hale did it, Laya said. He lived here, had a dog the boys loved. Nolan's eyes flickered. Vernon was cleared. Alibi checked out, church meeting. Dozen witnesses. But, she hesitated, then leaned closer. I worked a case in '98. Another missing kid, 2 towns over. Same symbol on a locket we found. I don't believe in coincidences. Ben scoffed. So what? Some old guy's got a creepy symbol, and now we're in a conspiracy? Nolan ignored him, turning to Leia. You got anything else? Names? Leads? Jimmy Shade, Leia said. Vagrant saw a truck in '79, and Vernon had a son, Matthew, died in 1960. No one talks about him. Nolan scribbled it down. I'll look into it. Stay out of trouble, both of you. After Nolan left, Leia drove to the edge of town, where Jimmy Shade was known to hang out a diner called Rusty's, all chipped Formica and greasy coffee. Jimmy, late 60s, sat in a corner booth, his army jacket patched, his eyes darting like he expected trouble. Leia slid in across from him, ordering 2 coffees to break the ice. You're that new gal from Broken Elm, Jimmy said, voice rough. Heard you're stirring up ghosts. I'm looking for answers, Leia said, sliding a $10 bill across the table. About the Cooper boys, 1,979. You saw something. Jimmy's fingers twitched, but he took the money. Yeah, I saw something. Night they went missing. I was sleeping in the alley off Willow Lane. Truck pulled up to Vernon's house. No plates. Dark blue. Had a mark on the door 3 lines, like a claw through a ring. 2 guys got out. 1 old, 1 younger. Heard a kid crying, then nothing. Told the cops, but they said I was drunk. Leia leaned forward. What did the men look like? Old one was Vernon, no doubt. Other Geidel, skinny, beard. Moved like he was in charge. Never saw him again. Jimmy sipped his coffee, eyes distant. That tree though. Devil's tree. Always felt like it was watching. Leia's phone buzzed Elaine. Leia, come over. I found something. She paid Jimmy, promising to return, and sped back to Broken Elm Street. Elaine was in her living room, a shoebox open on the coffee table. Inside, a stack of letters, yellowed and tied with twine. These were in the attic, Elaine said, voice trembling. From Vernon, to someone named Ralph Mason. Look. Leia opened one, dated August 1979. Vernon's handwriting was neat, deliberate. Ralph, the boys are perfect. 3, just like you said. The dog's working. They trust me. When do we move? Another, from the 8th of September, 2 days before the disappearance. It's set. The tree will cover us. Bring the truck. Leia's blood ran cold. Ralph Mason. Jimmy mentioned a second guy with Vernon. Elaine nodded, pulling out another item, a small notebook, its pages brittle. This was with the letters. It's in code, but I know it. She opened it, revealing lines of numbers and letters. It's based on a rhyme the boys used to sing. 3 by 3, under the tree, we'll never be free. I taught it to them. Leia scanned the first line. 9 to 10 negative 79. DEM, TDT. Her stomach lurched. Daniel Avon Miles. September T. Edusina Nihundla on New Half Years. TDT. Devil's Tree. Elaine's eyes blazed. Vernon planned it. He used that damn dog to lure them, and this Ralph helped him. Leia grabbed her notepad. We need to crack the rest, and we need Nolan. She paused, noticing Elaine's hand shaking. You okay? Elaine stared out the window, at the elm tree's gnarled branches. Last night, I dreamed they were under that tree, calling me. Mama, you didn't see. When I woke up, my window was covered in handprints, small ones. Leia's throat tightened, like the footprint I found. Exactly like that, Elaine whispered. That afternoon, Leia met Margaret Voss, the boy's old teacher, at a nursing home on the edge of Rosewood. Margaret, 80, frail but sharp, sat in a wheelchair by a window, her hands folded over a quilt. Elaine called me, she said, voice thin. Said you're asking about my students. Daniel, Evan, Miles. Sweet boys, always together. Leia sat across from her, notebook ready. Did they ever talk about someone they met? A man? Maybe with a dog? Margaret's eyes clouded. Yes. They called him their secret friend. Said he let them play with his dog, Brutus, in the park. Big golden retriever, loved kids. I saw him once, giving them candy by the swings. Older man, gray hair. I think it was Vernon Hale. Leia's pen froze. Why didn't you tell the police? Margaret's hands trembled. I did. But Vernon was respected, a churchgoer. The cops said I was confused, that he was at a meeting when the boys vanished. I was scared. Vernon had a way of looking at you, like he could ruin you. She leaned closer, voice dropping. After they disappeared, I saw him burning something in his backyard. Smelled like cloth. I never went near that house again. Leia scribbled furiously. Anything else about the boys? Anything odd? They started drawing strange pictures that summer, Margaret said. 3 boys in a tree with a man watching. Miles always added a dog. I kept one. She pointed to a drawer. Leia opened it, finding a faded crayon drawing, 3 stick figures, a gnarled tree, a dog, and a tall man with no face. Above the tree, in childish scrawl, "We can't go home." Leia's heart pounded. "Can I take this?" Margaret nodded. "Find them, please. I should have done more." Back at 214, Leia spread the drawing, the notebook, and the letters on the kitchen table. Ben walked in, still grumpy from the morning. "Cops took the stuff," he said. "Nolan's running prints, but she said don't hold your breath." Leia barely looked up. "Vernon planned it, Ben. He and some guy named Ralph Mason. They used the dog to get the boys, and that tree, it's part of it." Ben groaned. "You're obsessed. This is nuts." "Then explain the handprints." Leia snapped. "Explain the yo-yo, the key, the damn giggles in the walls." Before Ben could argue, the phone rang, shrill and jarring. Leia grabbed it. "Hello?" Silence, then a low, raspy voice. "Stop digging, or you'll lose everything." The line went dead. Leia dropped the phone, her hand shaking. Ben stared, wide-eyed. "Who was that?" "I don't know," she whispered, "but they know what we're doing." Elaine arrived minutes later, clutching a flashlight and a rosary. "I heard it," she said, breathless. "In my dream again. The boys, under the tree, they're screaming now." Leia showed her the notebook, the drawing, the letters. "We're close, Elaine. Vernon wasn't alone. Ralph Mason was with him, and that symbol, it's bigger than we thought." Elaine's eyes locked on the tree outside. "Then we dig. Right there, under the devil's tree." Ben threw up his hands. "You're both insane. You think you'll find them under a tree after 29 years? Maybe not them," Elaine said, voice like ice, but answers. That night, Leia couldn't sleep. The house creaked, the wind rattling the windows. She sat by the kitchen table, decoding the notebook with Elaine's rhyme. Line after line mentioned the tree, the boys, and the circle. At 3 a.m., she heard a soft giggle, sharp and clear, from the garage. She grabbed a flashlight, creeping to the door. The garage was dark, the air heavy. Her beam caught something on the floor, a single red crayon, snapped in half. "Leia?" Ben's voice came from the hallway, sleepy but tense. "What's wrong?" She didn't answer, her light sweeping the walls. There, in fresh red crayon, was a new message. "They're still here." A loud crack split the silence, like wood splintering. Leia spun, her beam landing on the far wall, the one she'd torn open. A shadow moved behind it, small, fleeting, like a child darting out of sight. She screamed, dropping the flashlight. Ben rushed in, grabbing her. "What the hell was that?" he yelled. Leia pointed, trembling. "Someone's in the wall." They backed out, slamming the door. Leia's phone rang, the screen lighting up the dark. Unknown number. She answered, heart in her throat. A child's voice whispered, "Mama, you didn't see." Then the line went dead. Leia Ramirez's hand shook as she clutched the phone, the child's voice still echoing in her ears. Asterisk. "Mama, you didn't see." Asterisk. The garage was silent now, but the red crayon message, "They're still here," burned into her vision, scrawled across the concrete like a warning from a ghost. Ben stood beside her, his flashlight beam darting across the dark corners, his breath ragged. "We're done, Leia," he said, voice tight. "This isn't our fight. We're packing up and leaving." "No," Leia snapped, her voice sharper than the knife she still held. "Those boys were taken from this street, Ben. Their stuff was in our wall. That message, it's not a coincidence. Someone's watching us, and they're scared we're getting close." Elaine Cooper burst through the front door, her white hair wild, a flashlight in one hand and Miles's bracelet in the other. "I heard it too," she said, eyes blazing. "In my house, just now. A voice, calling my name. From the attic." She looked at the garage, at the broken crayon. "They're trying to stop us, but I won't stop." Ben threw up his hands. "You're both insane. You think ghosts are riding on our floor? We need the cops, not a seance." "Call them, then," Elaine said, her voice like steel. "But they won't find what's under that tree. We will." Laya's stomach twisted. "The devil's tree?" Elaine nodded, pointing out the window. The old elm loomed at the end of Broken Elm Street, its gnarled branches clawing at the dawn sky like skeletal fingers. "That's where they were last seen. That's where the answers are." By morning, Detective Sarah Nolan arrived with a ground-penetrating radar unit, her cruiser parked crooked in the driveway. Her blazer was rumpled, her eyes bloodshot from a sleepless night. "You're lucky I'm here," she said, stepping into the garage. "I ran that symbol 3 lines in a circle. Showed up in 2 other cases, 71 and 76. Missing kids, never found. No one connected them until now." Laya handed her the coded notebook from Vernon Hale's attic. Elaine cracked part of it. "It's based on a rhyme the boys sang. Mentions the tree, the boys, and something called the circle." Nolan flipped through the pages, her jaw tightening. "Vernon Hale was no saint. I pulled his file. In 60, his son Matthew drowned in a creek behind the house. Official reports said accident, but the coroner noted bruises on the kid's arms. Never investigated." She looked at Elaine. "You sure about digging under that tree?" Elaine's voice was steady. "I've waited 29 years. I'm sure." The radar tech, a wiry guy named Pete, set up his equipment in the cul-de-sac, the machine humming as it scanned the earth. Neighbors peeked from their porches, whispering about the devil's tree. Leia caught snippets. "Cursed ground. Kids don't play there no more." Her skin prickled. Pete called Nolan over, his face pale. "Got something. A void, maybe 5 feet by 3, about 4 feet down. Not natural. Could be a crawl space or a chamber." Leia's heart pounded. "Under the tree?" "Right beneath it," Pete said, pointing to the elm's twisted roots. Nolan nodded. "Get a crew. We dig now." The excavation took hours, the crew working under the midday sun, their shovels biting into the soft dirt. Laya stood beside Elaine, who clutched Miles's bracelet like a lifeline. Ben stayed back, arms crossed, muttering about selling the house. The workers hit something hard, a concrete slab, hidden under a foot of soil. They pried it up, revealing a narrow tunnel, its walls rough with stone and damp earth. Nolan shone her flashlight inside. This wasn't on any blueprints. Someone built this in secret. Laya peered over her shoulder, the air cold and stale. "What's down there?" "Only one way to find out," Nolan said, pulling on gloves. She handed Leia a flashlight. "You coming?" Ben grabbed Laya's arm. "Don't. This is crazy." She shook him off. "I'm not stopping now." She followed Nolan and Elaine into the tunnel, the darkness swallowing them. The passage was tight, barely 3 feet wide, the walls scratched with crude marks. Leia's beam caught one a drawing, etched in stone. 3 small figures, a dog, and a tall man with no face. Above it, in shaky letters, "We can't go home." Elaine gasped, touching the stone. "That's Miles's handwriting. He was here." Nolan's voice was grim. "Keep moving." The tunnel opened into a small chamber, maybe 6 feet square, lined with cracked concrete. On one wall, more drawings, 3 boys, a tree, and the 3-line symbol, carved deep. In the center, a pile of dirt and debris. Leia's light hit something metallo-rusted lunchbox, red as a fire truck. Elaine fell to her knees, opening it with trembling hands. Inside, a pair of socks, a Pokemon sticker, and a folded note in red crayon. "Please don't tell Mama I took the dog treats." Elaine's sob echoed in the chamber. "Evan, he wrote this." Laya's throat tightened. "They were here. In this hole." Nolan bagged the lunchbox, her face hard. This wasn't just a hiding spot. This was a cage. Back on the surface, The crew sealed the tunnel, but the air felt heavier, like the street was watching. Laya's phone rang as they climbed out, an unknown number. She answered, her voice shaky. "Hello?" A woman's voice, low and clipped. "Mrs. Ramirez, this is Clara Hale. We need to talk. About my father." Laya's blood ran cold. "Fernan Hale?" "Yes. Meet me tonight. Old warehouse. On Route 12, 9 p.m. Come alone." The line went dead. Ben overheard, his face red. "You're not going. This is a setup." "I have to," Laya said, pocketing the phone. "Clara's his daughter. She knows something." Elaine nodded, her eyes fierce. "I'm coming with you." "No," Leia said. "If it's a trap, I need you safe. Tell Nolan." Elaine hesitated, then handed Laya the coded notebook. "Take this. It's all we have." That night, Laya drove to the warehouse, a crumbling shell off a dirt road, its windows boarded, the air thick with dust and rust. Her headlights caught a figure by the entrance. Clara Hale, mid-40s, thin, with sharp cheekbones and eyes that glinted like steel. She wore a dark coat, a silver ring on her finger catching the light. Leia's breath hitched. The ring bore the three-line symbol. "Mrs. Ramirez," Clara said, voice smooth but cold. "You've been busy." Laya gripped the notebook, her heart racing. "Your father took those boys. Their things were in his wall." Clara's smile was thin. "My father was a broken man. Lost his son, his wife. He didn't take anyone. You're chasing shadows." "Then why hide their toys?" Laya shot back. "Why seal a tunnel under the tree?" Clara's eyes narrowed. "You don't know what you're digging into. Give me the photo, the bracelets, everything." "No," Leia said, stepping back. "Those boys deserve the truth." Clara laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Truth? You think you can handle it? There's a reason that tree's called the Devil's Tree. Walk away, or you'll wish you had." The warehouse lights flickered, then died. Darkness swallowed them. Laya's flashlight beam shook as she backed toward the door. A shadow moved fast, too fast. Something hard struck her shoulder, and she fell, the notebook slipping from her hands. A man's voice hissed, "You were warned." Laya scrambled up, grabbing the notebook and sprinting to her car. Her shoulder throbbed, but she didn't stop. As she sped away, her headlights caught Clara standing in the road, unmoving, the three-line ring glinting. Laya's hand brushed her pocket, and she froze. A new weight was there, a silver ring, identical to Clara's, slipped inside during the attack. Back home, she showed Nolan the ring, her voice trembling. "They're organized. This isn't just Vernon." Nolan's face was grim. "That symbol, it's tied to 3 other cases. Kids, gone, same mark. I'm calling in a forensic team." Laya drove to Jimmy Shade's alley the next morning, her shoulders still sore. He was by a dumpster, sipping coffee from a styrofoam cup. "You look spooked," he said, eyeing her. "Someone attacked me last night," Laya said, showing him the ring. "You saw this symbol on that truck in 79, right?" Jimmy nodded, his hands shaking. "Yeah, blue truck, no plates. Parked by Vernon's. I saw it again, maybe 80, out by the old quarry. Place called the Stone Circle. Folks said kids went missing there too." Laya's pulse quickened. "Where's this quarry?" 10 miles west. Ain't been used in years. But you don't want to go there. That place. It's wrong." She ignored the warning, driving to the quarry with Elaine. The Stone Circle was just that, a ring of jagged rocks, half buried in dirt, with 3 child-sized shoes in the center, arranged like an offering. Elaine knelt, touching one, her voice breaking. "These are theirs, Daniel's sneakers." Laya's flashlight caught a mark on a rock, the 3-line symbol, carved deep. A gust of wind carried a faint sound, like a child's cry. Elaine gasped, clutching her chest. "They're here," she whispered. "My boys." That night, Laya's phone rang again. Unknown number. She answered, heart pounding. A voice, low and raspy, hissed, "You found the circle. Now you'll never leave." The line went dead as the garage light flickered, and a shadow passed under the Devil's Tree. The wind howled through broken Elm Street, rattling the windows of Leah Ramirez's house like a warning. She stood in the kitchen, the silver ring with the 3-line symbol glinting under the fluorescent light. Her shoulder throbbed from the attack at the warehouse, and the child's voice on the phone, "You found the circle, now you'll never leave," clawed at her mind. Ben paced behind her, his face pale, his voice sharp. "Laya, we're done. Someone attacked you. They broke into our garage. This isn't a story, it's a death trap." Laya spun, her eyes blazing. "They're scared, Ben. Whoever's doing this, they know we're close. That ring, the tunnel, the stone circlete's all connected. Those boys didn't just vanish. They were taken, and someone's still covering it up." Elaine Cooper sat at the table, clutching Miles's bracelet, her face carved with grief and resolve. "It's Vernon Hale," she said, voice low. "He planned it. That notebook proves it. And this Ralph Masani's the key." Detective Sarah Nolan leaned against the counter, her notepad open, her blazer creased from a long night. She'd been up since Leia's call about the warehouse, running the ring symbol through old case files. "You're right about one thing," Nolan said, flipping a page. "That symbol 3 lines through a circle shows up in 3 other missing kid cases, all from the 70s, all unsolved. Vernon's name never came up, but I pulled his records. His son, Matthew, didn't just drown in 1960. The coroner's report said the boy had bruises, like he'd been held down. No one followed up." Leia's stomach churned. "You think Vernon killed his own son?" Nolan's eyes darkened. "I think he broke after it. His wife died a year later overdose, ruled a suicide. Vernon quit teaching, shut himself in that house. Maybe he saw your boys, Elaine, and thought they were a second chance." Elaine's hand tightened on the bracelet. "A second chance? He stole my sons. He used that damn dog to lure them, and now you're telling me he was grieving?" "I'm saying he was unhinged," Nolan said. "In that notebook you found, it's not just a code, it's a plan. 3 by 3, under the tree. It's ritualistic. I'm betting Vernon was part of something bigger." Laya pulled out the coded notebook, its pages brittle under her fingers. She'd spent hours decoding it with Elaine's rhyme. 3 by 3, under the tree, will never be free. Asterisk, 1 entry, dated the 9th of September, 1979, chilled her. RM. Says the circle needs 3. The boys are ready, the tree will hide them. Ralph Mason. "Who's this circle?" Laya asked, her voice tight. Nolan's jaw clenched. "I don't know yet, but I found an address tied to Ralph Mason in Pine Bluff, Arizona. A trailer, off the grid, no utilities. Someone's been paying the taxes in cash for years." Elaine stood, her eyes fierce. "Then we go. Now." Ben threw up his hands. "You're all crazy. You're chasing a ghost across state lines?" "Laya, we have a life here." "Then stay, Ben," Laya snapped. "But I'm not letting this go. Those boys deserve answers." Nolan nodded. "I'll get a warrant for the trailer. But Elaine, Laethus isn't a game. If Mason's alive, he's dangerous." "I don't care," Elaine said, her voice like iron. "I've waited 29 years. I'm finding my boys." The next morning, Leah, Elaine, and Nolan hit the road for Arizona, the Texas plains fading into dusty highways. The drive was long, nearly 900 miles, the air thick with tension. Laya rode shotgun, her notebook open, scribbling questions. Who is Ralph Mason? What's the circle? Why the tree? Asterisk. Elaine sat in the back, staring out the window, clutching a photo of her boys Daniel, Evan, Miles, grinning in their red jackets. Nolan drove, her eyes scanning the road like she expected it to betray her. "You ever work a case like this?" Leah asked, breaking the silence. Nolan's grip tightened on the wheel. "Once. 98, a girl, 10 years old, vanished from a park in Waco. Found a locket with that 3-line symbol. No body, no leads. I still see her face." Her voice cracked, then steadied. "This time, I'm not letting it go." They reached Pine Bluff at dusk, a withered town on the Arizona border, all sun-bleached signs and shuttered diners. The trailer sat at the end of a dirt road, surrounded by scrub brush and rusted fencing. A mailbox leaned crooked by the gate, its name scratched out with black marker. The place felt alive, waiting, its silence louder than it should be. Nolan stepped out first, hand on her badge. "Stay behind me," she said, pulling her flashlight. Leia followed, clutching her own light. Elaine close behind, her eyes scanning every shadow. The trailer's door was unlocked, creaking as Nolan pushed it open. The air inside was stale, thick with dust and tobacco. A twin bed sat in one corner, its sheets thin and gray. A table held a kettle and a shoebox labeled Spring, in black ink. Nolan opened the box, her gloved hands careful. Inside, dozens of photos, all boys, some smiling, some blurry, always in groups of 3, never facing the camera. Leia's breath caught. One photo showed 3 boys sitting in a circle, backs to the lens, drawing in the dirt. The date on the back, the 18th of July, 1980. Elaine grabbed it, her hand shaking. "It's them, Daniel, Evan, Miles. I know their shoulders, their hair. They were alive." Nolan bagged the photo, her face grim. This was taken a year after they vanished. Mason was here. Leia's light swept the trailer, landing on a back room of former laundry space, its floor redone with plywood. A bare bulb hung from the ceiling, flickering. Something felt wrong, like the room was holding its breath. Elaine stepped forward, her voice low. "There's something under us." Nolan nodded, grabbing a crowbar from a toolbox outside. They pried up the plywood, revealing a shallow hollow, maybe 3 feet deep, lined with insulation and old cloth. In the center, a locked metal box, its lock rusted shut. Nolan broke it open, her hand steady. Inside, 2 journals tied with twine, a child's drawing of 3 stick figures, and a dog, and an envelope labeled, "Cooper Boys." Elaine opened it, her breath hitching. 3 plastic bracelets, faded but intact, each with a name, Daniel, Evan, Miles. She sank to her knees, clutching them. "They kept their names," she whispered. "They kept them." Nolan flipped through the journals, her face hardening. "This is Mason's handwriting. First entry, the 22nd of September, 1979. They're settling in. Miles is scared, hides when I come in. Vernon says it'll pass. Daniel asks for his mama." Leia's stomach twisted. "They were here. In this trailer." Nolan kept reading, her voice low. "The 15th of October, 1979. Vernon calls them the brothers. Says names belong to the past. Keeps them separate now. Says it stops them plotting." Elaine's sob broke the silence. "He tore them apart." Leia found another drawing in the box. 3 boys, a dog, and a tall figure with red eyes. Beneath it, in crayon. "We're not supposed to go." Her skin crawled. "What's Vernon's deal? Why 3 boys?" Nolan closed the journal. "I found more on Matthew Hale. He was 3 when he died. Vernon's wife blamed him, said he left the boy by the creek. After she died, Vernon started writing letters to someone, maybe Mason, about fixing it. I think he saw your boys as replacements." Elaine's eyes blazed. "Replacements? They were my sons." "I know," Nolan said, her voice soft. "But to Vernon, they were a ritual. This Circolet's not just a name, it's an obsession." They searched the trailer, finding more photos, all boys in groups of 3, some dated as late as 1990. Leia's flashlight caught a mark on the wall, the 3-line symbol, carved deep. A faint giggle echoed, sharp and cold, like it came from the walls. Leia spun, her beam darting. "Nothing." "Did you hear that?" she whispered. Elaine nodded, her face pale. "It's them. They're still here." Nolan's radio crackled, the sheriff's voice cutting through. "Nolan, we got a hit on Mason. He's alive, living under an alias Sherald Moss, last seen in Bitter Ridge, 20 miles north." "We're going," Elaine said, standing, her voice like a blade. Nolan hesitated. "It's not safe, if Mason's part of this circle." "I don't care," Elaine cut in. "My boys were in this hellhole. I'm finding him." Laya nodded, her heart racing. I'm with her. They drove to Bitter Ridge under a blood-red sunset, the desert stretching endless around them. The compound was a ghost town, just a rusted trailer and a barn, a satellite dish dangling by a wire. A man sat on the porch, thin, gray-bearded, eyes like steel marbles. Ralph Mason. Nolan stepped out, badge raised. Ralph Mason, we need to talk. He didn't flinch. Depends who's asking. Detective Sarah Nolan, Rosewood PD. This is Elaine Cooper. You knew her sons. Mason's jaw twitched, but he didn't deny it. Knew a lot of boys, some louder than others. They sat inside, the trailer reeking of dust and metal. Mason's voice was flat, emotionless. I didn't hurt them. That was Vernon. I just kept them alive. Elaine leaned forward, her voice trembling with rage. You kidnapped them. You hid them from me. Mason met her eyes. And what would you have done? They forgot their names, their home. Vernon said they were his now. Laya's hand clenched around the notebook. What's the circle? Why 3 boys? Mason's lip twitched. Vernon believed 3 was sacred. His boy died at 3. He thought 3 could bring him back. The circlate's bigger than him. Bigger than me. Nolan slid a photo across the table. Daniel, Evan, Miles, taken in 1980. You took this. Where are they now? Mason looked away. I took them to a place in Texas. A haven. They're alive. At least, some of them. Elaine's voice broke. Some? Mason's eyes flickered. Miles, he didn't make it. Vernon buried him. I couldn't stop it. Elaine collapsed, sobbing. Laya grabbed her, her own heart pounding. Where's the haven? She demanded. Mason hesitated, then scribbled an address. Howard's Haven for Hope, rural Texas. But you won't like what you find. As they left, Laya noticed a drawing taped to the wall. 3 boys, a tree, and a figure with red eyes. The crayon was fresh, the lines shaky. Her blood ran cold. Who drew this? She asked. Mason's voice was barely a whisper. They never stopped. That night, at a motel in Pine Bluff, Laya couldn't sleep. The journals lay open on the bed, Mason's words looping in her mind. Vernon buried him. Asterisk. She flipped to a new entry, dated the 19th of July, 1980. Miles is gone. Vernon says the circle is complete, but the tree still calls. A giggle echoed from the motel window, sharp and fleeting. Laya's flashlight swept the room. Nothing. But on the windowsill, a single red crayon, snapped in half. Laya Ramirez's hand shook as she gripped the motel room's flimsy curtain, peering into the Arizona night. The red crayon on the windowsill gleamed like a warning. It snapped halves stark against the chipped paint. The giggle she'd heard, sharp, childlike, impossible, still echoed in her skull. Ralph Mason's words burned hotter. Miles is gone. Vernon buried him. Asterisk. She turned to Detective Sarah Nolan, who sat on the bed, flipping through Mason's journal, her face grim under the motel's flickering lamp. Elaine Cooper stood by the door, clutching the envelope of bracelets, her eyes hollow but fierce. We're going to that haven, Elaine said, her voice like a blade cutting through the stale air. Howard's Haven for Hope. If my boys are there, I'm bringing them home. Nolan closed the journal, her jaw tight. It's 600 miles back to Texas, rural, off the grid. If Mason's telling the truth, we're walking into a lion's den. Laya's throat was dry. He said Miles is gone, but Daniel and Evan could still be alive. Could, Nolan emphasized, standing. Mason's a liar. He admitted to keeping them here, in that trailer. We need to move fast, but we don't go in blind. I'm calling for backup. Ben's voice crackled through Laya's phone on speaker, his tone frantic from their Rosewood home. Laya, you're not seriously going to some cult farm, are you? After that attack? Come home. I can't, Ben, Laya said, her voice steady despite her racing pulse. These boys were stolen. Their mother's been waiting 29 years. I'm seeing this through. You're gonna get yourself killed, Ben snapped. And for what? A box of old toys? For answers. Leia shot back. You didn't see that tunnel, Ben. You didn't read Mason's journal. This isn't just about the Coopers. It's bigger. Elaine stepped forward, her eyes blazing. Tell your husband to grow a spine, Leia. My boys are out there. I'm not stopping. Ben groaned. Fine, but I'm not bailing you out when this goes south. The line went dead. Nolan grabbed her keys. We leave at dawn. Get some sleep. You'll need it. Sleep never came. Leia lay on the motel bed, the journal's words looping in her mind. Miles is gone. Vernon says the circle is complete. Asterisk. The three-line symbol haunted hair in the key. The ring, the stone circle. She clutched the Polaroid of the Cooper boys, their grins frozen in 1979, unaware of the darkness coming. A faint giggle sounded outside, like wind through the desert scrub. She didn't dare look. The drive back to Texas was a blur of endless highways and dust-choked towns. By late afternoon, they reached Howard's Haven for Hope, a sprawling farm 50 miles west of Rosewood, hidden among rolling plains. A faded wooden sign read, Established 1992. Planting roots, growing lives. Asterisk. The gate was rusted iron, creaking as Nolan pushed it open. Beyond it, fields stretched under a bruised sky, dotted with Boysteins, mostly shoveling soil in neat rows. From a distance, it looked wholesome, like a summer camp, but Leia's skin crawled. The silence was too perfect, the boys' movements too mechanical. A woman greeted them at the main farmhouse, clipboard in hand. Welcome to the Haven. I'm Sister Mara, she said, her voice soft but firm. Mid-60s, white hair tucked under a straw hat, she smiled like a grandmother hiding a knife. You here for a tour? Nolan flashed her badge. Detective Sarah Nolan, Rosewood PD. We're here for Howard Fielding. We have reason to believe this property's tied to a missing persons case. Mara's smile faltered, her eyes darting to the fields. Mr. Fielding's in the greenhouse. I'll fetch him. Leia whispered to Elaine, something's off. She's nervous. Elaine nodded, her hand tightening on the bracelets. They're hiding something. I can feel it. The greenhouse was warm, fragrant with damp soil and lemon balm. A man bent over a tray of tomato sprouts, humming a tuneless song. Silver hair, lined face, a cautious smile. Howard Fielding. He looked up, his eyes narrowing. Can I help you? Elaine stepped forward, her voice trembling. You taught my boys at Oak Ridge Elementary. Daniel, Evan, Miles Cooper. They vanished in 1979. Fielding's hand froze in the soil. I remember them, smart kids, always together. What happened to them? Elaine demanded, her voice rising. Vernon Hale gave them to you, didn't he? Fielding's smile faded. You don't know what you're talking about. Nolan stepped in, her voice hard. We found Mason's journals. He said you took the boys here, to this haven. Where are they? Fielding hesitated, then sighed. Come with me. He led them to a smaller house behind the greenhouse, its wind chimes clinking in the breeze. Inside, a man in his late 30s stood over a stove, stirring a pot. Dark curly hair, warm brown skin, muscular frame. He turned, and Elaine gasped, her knees buckling. Danny, she whispered. The man froze, his eyes wide. Mom? Elaine rushed forward, sobbing, wrapping her arms around him. Daniel, my boy. I never stopped looking. He hugged her back, his voice shaky. I thought you were gone. They said you died. Nolan's hand rested on her badge, her eyes on Fielding. Who's they? Fielding looked away. Vernon. He said their parents abandoned them. I took them in, gave them a home. You stole them. Elaine snapped, pulling back from Daniel. Where's Evan? Where's Miles? Fielding's voice cracked. Miles didn't make it. Vernon. He was too rough. I tried to stop him. Elaine's sob echoed, raw and broken. Leia grabbed her arm, steadying her. And Evan? Leia asked, her voice tight. Fielding nodded toward the fields. He's here, goes by Diego now. They found Diego in the main office, a man in his late 30s, identical to Daniel except for a scar above his eyebrow. He froze when he saw Elaine, his eyes welling. "I know your voice," he whispered, collapsing into her arms. "I thought it was a dream." Leia's heart ached, but something felt wrong. Diego's scar, his posture didn't match the boy in the Polaroid. She whispered to Nolan, "We need DNA. Something's off." Nolan nodded, her face grim. "Already on it." Back at the farmhouse, Daniel Ferdinand, as he'd been called, sat with them under the porch awning, his hands clasped tight. "I remember the house," he said, voice low. "Broken Elm, Brutus the dog. But they told us we were orphans, immigrants. Rescued." Elaine clutched his hand. "Who told you that?" "Vernon, then Howard," Daniel said. "They said you were gone. I stopped asking after a while." Leia leaned forward. "What about Miles?" Daniel's eyes darkened. He was quiet, always hiding. One day, he was just gone. Vernon said he ran away. I didn't believe him. Nolan's radio crackled with news from the lab. She stepped outside, returning minutes later, her face pale. "DNA results. Ferdinand is Daniel Cooper, but Diego, he's not Evan. He's someone else." Elaine's breath hitched, her hand flying to her mouth. "Then where's my Evan?" Nolan shook her head. "I don't know, but we'll find him." Fielding, still standing nearby, shifted uncomfortably. "I didn't know," he said, voice low. "Vernon brought them here, said they were his. I thought I was helping." "You built a lie," Leia snapped. "You kept them prisoner." Fielding's eyes dropped. "I couldn't let them go." Too much time had passed. That evening, Nolan's team searched the farm. In a locked shed, they found a box of documents, forged birth certificates for Ferdinand, Diego, and a third boy, Gabriel, dated 1991. Leia's flashlight caught a photo taped to the shed wall. 3 boys, backs to the camera, sitting by a river, dated 1980. Elaine recognized them instantly. "That's Evan," she whispered, pointing to the tallest. Nolan bagged the photo, her voice grim. "This confirms they were alive a year after the abduction. But Diego's not Evan. Someone swapped him." Leia's phone buzzed a text from an unknown number. "Stop digging, or Daniel's next. Asterisk." Her blood ran cold. She showed Nolan, who cursed under her breath. "They're watching us." Elaine's voice was steady despite her tears. "They can't have my boys again." The next morning, the team dug beneath the shed, guided by Mason's journal entry. Vernon buried him. Asterisk. The soil was soft, unnaturally so. At 3 feet down, they hit something, a plastic-wrapped bundle. Nolan opened it carefully, revealing a child's skeleton, small, fragile. A red lunchbox lay beside it, rusted but intact, with a note inside. "I tried to run. They caught me. Miles." Elaine collapsed, clutching the lunchbox, her sobs tearing through the silence. "My baby," she whispered, "my quiet light." Leia knelt beside her, her own eyes burning. "We'll find Evan, I promise." Nolan's radio crackled again. "We got a hit on Clara Hale," the deputy said. "She's in a motel, 10 miles from here, and she's not alone." Leia's heart pounded. "Clara? She attacked me at the warehouse." Nolan nodded, her face hard. "We're going, now." They drove to the motel, a run-down strip of rooms under a flickering neon sign. Clara's car was parked outside room 7. Nolan knocked, badge raised. "Clara Hale, open the door." Silence, then a crash. Nolan kicked the door in, revealing Clara standing over a suitcase, papers spilling onto the floor. A man's shadow darted out the back window, gone before they could react. Clara's eyes were wild, her ring glinting the 3-line symbol. "You can't stop it," Clara hissed. "The circle's bigger than you." Elaine lunged, grabbing Clara's arm. "Where's Evan? Where's my son?" Clara laughed, a sound like shattering glass. "You think you found them? You found nothing." Nolan cuffed her, but Leia noticed a paper on the floor, a letter, dated yesterday, addressed to Clara. "The circle is complete. Miles was the key. Evan's safe, for now." Leia's blood froze as a giggle echoed from the motel's open window, sharp and childlike. fading into the night. Laia Ramirez's hands trembled as she clutched the letter from Clara Hale's motel room, the words searing into her mind. The circle is complete. Miles was the key. Evan's safe, for now. Asterisk. The giggle from the window still echoed, a sharp, childlike taunt that made her skin crawl. Detective Sarah Nolan shoved Clara into the back of a cruiser, her face grim under the motel's flickering neon. Elaine Cooper stood frozen, clutching the rusted lunchbox from the shed, her eyes burning with a mix of grief and fury. The Texas night pressed in, heavy with secrets. "He's alive," Elaine whispered, her voice raw. "Evan's alive, and maybe Miles." Nolan slammed the cruiser door, turning to Leia. "We're taking Clara back to Rosewood. She knows more than she's saying, and that letter, it's a lead." Leia nodded, her heart pounding. "What about the circle?" Clara said, "It's bigger than us." Nolan's jaw tightened. "It is. I ran the symbol again. 2 more cases, 74 and 78, same 3-line mark. Kids gone, no bodies. This isn't just Vernon or Clara, it's a network." Ben's voice crackled through Leia's phone, frantic. "Leia, you okay?" "Nolan called me about the motel. Get home, please." "I'm fine," Leia said, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. "We found Daniel, and maybe Evan. But Miles, it's complicated." "Complicated?" Ben snapped. "You're chasing a cult, Leia. Come home. Soon," she said, hanging up. She turned to Elaine. "We're going back to Broken Elm Street. If Evan's alive, Clara knows where." Elaine's eyes blazed. "Then let's make her talk." The drive back to Rosewood was a blur of dark highways and tense silence. Clara sat cuffed in the cruiser, her lips pressed tight, the 3-line ring glinting on her finger. Leia clutched the letter, rereading it under the dim dome light. Miles was the key. Asterisk. What did that mean? The journal from Mason's trailer haunted her. Vernon buried him. Asterisk. But the letter suggested Miles might still be out there. Her head spun with questions. They reached Broken Elm Street at dawn, the Devil's Tree looming like a sentinel over the cul-de-sac. Its gnarled branches clawed at the gray sky, casting shadows that seemed to writhe. Leia's house at 214 stood quiet, the garage door still ajar from their last break-in. Elaine's brick home across the street glowed faintly, its porch light flickering like a heartbeat. Nolan hauled Clara into Elaine's living room, sitting her on a faded couch. The silver frames on the mantel. Daniel, Evan, Miles stared down like silent witnesses. Elaine stood over Clara, her voice low and dangerous. "Where's my son? Where's Evan?" Clara's smile was cold, her eyes glinting. "You think you've won? You found one boy, Daniel. Big deal. The circle's bigger than you, bigger than this street." Nolan leaned in, her badge catching the light. "Talk, Clara. Or you're looking at accessory to kidnapping, maybe murder." Clara laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Murder? You've got no bodies, just bones in a shed. You can't touch the circle." Elaine lunged, grabbing Clara's collar. "Where's Evan? Where's Miles?" Nolan pulled her back, her voice calm but firm. "Elaine, let me handle this." She turned to Clara. "We found Mason's journals. He named you. Said you helped Vernon hide their things. Start talking, or I'll bury you in a cell." Clara's smile faded, her eyes darting to the window. "You want Evan? He's closer than you think. But Miles, he was the key. Vernon needed 3, but Miles broke the chain." Leia's stomach twisted. "What does that mean?" Clara's voice dropped to a whisper. "The circle believes in 3s. 3 boys, 3 sacrifices. Vernon thought they'd bring his son back. Miles didn't cooperate. He ran." Elaine's breath hitched. "You're lying. We found his lunchbox. His note." Clara's eyes gleamed. "You found what they wanted you to find." Nolan's radio crackled. "Detective, we got a hit on Howard Fielding. He's at a safe house, 10 miles east. And we found a photo, Evan, dated 1980, at a farm." Elaine's hand flew to her mouth. "He's alive?" "For now," Nolan said, grabbing her keys. Leia, Elaine, let's move. They left Clara with a deputy and sped to the safe house, a rundown cabin off a dirt road. The air was thick with the scent of pine and decay. Nolan kicked the door open, her flashlight sweeping the dim interior. Howard Fielding sat at a table, his silver hair glinting, a stack of papers before him. He didn't flinch. "Detective Nolan," he said, voice smooth. "I figured you'd come. Where's Evan Cooper?" Nolan demanded, her hand on her badge. Fielding sighed, pointing to a back room. "He's here. Calls himself Diego now." Elaine pushed past, her heart pounding. In the room, a man in his late 30s stood by a window, his back to them, dark hair, broad shoulders, a scar above his eyebrow. He turned, and Elaine gasped. "Evan," she whispered, rushing forward. He froze, his eyes welling. "Mama, I remember your voice." She hugged him, sobbing. "I never stopped looking." Leia watched, her throat tight, but doubt gnawed at her. The scar, the posture, it matched the man they'd met at the Haven, the one who wasn't Evan. She whispered to Nolan, "DNA. We need it." Nolan nodded, her face grim. "Already sent samples from Diego at the Haven. Results should be in soon." Fielding stood, his hands raised. "I didn't hurt them. Vernon brought them to me in '80. Said they were abandoned. I gave them a home." "You gave them a lie," Leia snapped. "You're part of the Circle." Fielding's eyes darkened. "The Circle was Vernon's obsession. I just followed orders." Elaine pulled back from Evan, her voice trembling. "Where's Miles?" Fielding looked away. "Miles, he tried to run. Vernon didn't like that." Elaine's sob broke the silence. "You let him die." Fielding's voice cracked. "I tried to save him, but Vernon buried him under the tree." Leia's blood ran cold. "The Devil's Tree?" Fielding nodded. "That's where it started." Back at Broken Elm Street, Nolan's team dug beneath the tree, their shovels biting into the soft earth. Elaine stood by, clutching the lunchbox, her face pale. Leia's phone buzzed a text from an unknown number. "Asterisk, you're too late." Asterisk. Her heart sank. She showed Nolan, who cursed. The crew hit something, a wooden box, smaller than the one in the garage. Inside, a single bracelet, faded but intact, with Miles's name. A note, in red crayon. "I tried to run. They caught me. Miles." Elaine collapsed, sobbing. "My boy." Leia knelt beside her, her eyes burning. "We'll find Evan. The real Evan." Nolan's radio crackled. "DNA's back. The man at the Haven isn't Evan Cooper, but the man in the safe house, he's a match." Elaine's head snapped up. "Then who's Diego?" Nolan's face was grim. "Another kid, swapped in. The Circle's been doing this for years." They returned to Elaine's house, where Evan sat, still shaken. He looked at Elaine, his voice soft. "I remember you singing. You are my sunshine. I thought it was a dream." Elaine hugged him, tears streaming. "You're home now." Leia's phone buzzed again, a photo, sent from an unknown number. A man, late 30s, standing before a house in Bitter Ridge, Arizona. His face was Miles's, grown but unmistakable. A note, "The Circle never ends." Asterisk. Leia's blood froze. "Miles is alive." Nolan grabbed the phone. "We're going back to Bitter Ridge, now." They drove through the night, the desert swallowing their headlights. The house in the photo was a crumbling shack, its windows boarded. Nolan kicked the door open, revealing a room filled with photos, dozens of boys, always in threes, pinned to the walls. In the center, a table held a single red crayon and a drawing. 3 boys, a tree, a figure with red eyes. A giggle echoed, sharp and cold. Leia spun, her flashlight sweeping the room. Nothing. But on the floor, fresh as if drawn moments ago, was the 3-line symbol. Nolan's voice was low. "The Circle's still active." Elaine clutched the photo of Miles. "He's out there. I feel it." As they left, a shadow moved outside, fleeting but real. Leia's phone buzzed one last time, a voice message. She played it, her heart pounding. A child's voice, soft and clear. "Mama, we're still here." The line went dead as the devil's tree loomed in her mind, its branches whispering secrets that refused to die.